Hello, this is Overlord Bo, back with another information video. Today, I'll be covering the upcoming Tier 8 German light cruiser, the Wiesbaden. Now, the Wiesbaden is going to be available by purchasing from a container on the banks of Rhine premium containers, but I'll be going over that information shortly. First, let's just take a look at the ship. It does look pretty good. Now, just a note, all three of the front turrets are not 360. They can only go from one direction to the other. But this turret right here is 360, while these two right here are not. Just wanted to make note of that here. Now, the ship does come in two colors. It's more of this lightish kind of gray color than a more of a like lightish black or dark blue color. I personally like this color better. It seems a lot more clear, while this one's a little bit more faded. But I personally like this color a little bit more compared to the other one. Now let's talk about the ship's HP and armor. For the HP, you have 37,700 HP if you build into it, which I definitely recommend. I'll be showing the build at the end of the video today. You do have a 10% torpedo protection, which is very low, but it is a light cruiser, so I'm definitely not expecting a lot from this armor. For the armor here, you have a 16 millimeter bow and a 16 millimeter aft with a 16 millimeter deck. So 16 millimeter armor everywhere. Now on the side, you have 25 millimeter armor. So you're definitely not bouncing anything with any of this armor at all. Now you do get a turtle back right here, which protects the citadel, but this citadel only makes it where you're more likely to catch AP shells. Yeah, luckily enough though, at least the citadel can bounce BBAP rounds, so you're less likely to take citadels, but they can still pin the living crap out of you. Now again, this is a tier 8 cruiser, so it's definitely very fragile. You definitely need to make use of the German smoke that you have to be able to survive and do damage. Going off of that, let's talk about how you can obtain the Wiesbaden. So the Wiesbaden will be available, like I said earlier, by purchasing on the banks of the Rhine premium containers. Each container will cost 750 doubloons and has a 2.5% chance of dropping the ship. Now, if all the containers are bought without dropping the ship, then the Wiesbaden can be purchased for 1 credit and come with a flag, 10-point captain, and a 30-day credit boost for the ship, which is pretty interesting. I've never really seen them offer like a 30-day boost with the ship, but I would definitely say if you do get the ship, that I would highly recommend you take this thing into operations and use that 30-day credit boost to farm the living crap out of credits in operations. This ship is definitely good for operations. You'll definitely have fun with it. Highly recommended for that. So if you do get the ship or plan to, then use those 30-day credit boosts to get all the credits in that mode. Just have a ball, all the ball. Now that we know how to get the ship, let's start talking about the overall characteristics of the ship. Now you have 12 guns and with respectable HE-DBM, and since she is German, you get the 4th pin. So since the guns are 128s, you get the 32 millimeter armor pin on these bad boy 12 guns, which makes it where you can farm and do a lot of damage to a lot of the tier 8, tier 9, even tier 10 battleships with that 32 millimeter armor pin, which is amazing. On top of that, you do have about a 5 or 6% fire chance, which you can build into, which makes it where you can up that so you get fire damage and the raw HE-DPM, which is just the French kiss. You also have excellent AP-DPM on paper, but heavy butt here. It requires you to get very close to avoid shattering on armor, so be very careful on when you use the AP. It's better just to save it until you're really close when you're fighting someone broadside, like a broadside cruiser. It will definitely tear them apart, but for battleships, just aim for upper deck with the AP, maybe around 7 or 8 kilometers if they're broadside. But yeah, definitely be careful of that. Now you do have like a slower reload of about 6 seconds, You do have good forward firing angles to the front, but when you're cutting away, the angle can be pretty atrocious. Like I was showing earlier, you do have the 3 front guns are not 360, while the 2 bottom rear are not 360. The very top rear gun is 360. So at all times, if you're going towards somebody, you're going to have 4 guns at the target at all times, which is really good if you're forced to be bow into a target. Now, downside of these guns is that they are slow shells, and you have to get close to be able to deal damage. So that's definitely a downside for that. But overall, for the guns, they're above average DPM, but you are able to use the smoke to keep you somewhat safe while you're farming, which is a huge plus for the ship. Besides the 12 guns that you get, you also get 12 9.5 kilometer range torpedoes that hits for 14k damage and have a 68-second reload. There's 6 of them per side, and you are able to stealth torpedo. If you build all the way into the concealment, you have an 8.5 kilometer concealment, so you have about a 1 kilometer buffer with your torpedoes. But if you're kiting away, you probably have maybe you have to launch them around maybe 10.5 to 11 kilometers away if they're coming at you, so you're able to stealth hit with your torpedoes. You could also use them as more of a last-ditch effort to yellow at somebody. These torpedoes are more useful for discouraging enemies from rushing your smoke. You won't dev strike them with these. You would have to launch one side, and then you'd have to launch the other side to be able to dev strike somebody. It's not going to be like a full health to none with these torpedoes. For the Wiesbaden's anti-air, it is quote-unquote good on paper, but all of that really good anti-air is within the 3 kilometers of the anti-air, the close range anti-air. The other 3 kilometers where it goes to 6 kilometers is really bad. It will shred dive bombers, but torpedo bombers, skip bombers, or attack fighters, they're not going to do almost anything to those planes at all. So good luck with that. It just sucks that because pretty much every German anti-air or German ship, even though the ship is supposed to be a flak ship, a flak German prototype kind of thing, it just does not have good anti-air, unfortunately. So there continues the German fate of having bad anti-air. Now, going from bad to worse is we're going from anti-air to the anti-submarine depth charges. And this thing's depth charges are, they suck. Let's just put it simply. They suck. You go from bad anti-air to really sucky depth charges. For depth charges, you get 6 depth charges per charge that deal 2.4k damage each. Now, it won't kill a full health D, even if you drop your entire load on top of it, it won't. You have to use 2 charges to actually kill a sub. Sucks. You have bad anti-air, and then you have bad depth charges. Good luck dealing with a sub in this thing, is all I'm going to say. For the maneuverability, you have a mediocre top speed of 32 knots. Pretty much, if you have a tier 9 or 10 battleship with a speed boost, you're dead. You're gonna get run down. There's not really much you can do. All you're able to do is smoke up while running away from the use of smoke as cover and wait for them in the smoke. Use your Hydra to be able to give you some kind of advantage on them, to be able to use your torps when they start pushing you, because pretty much they're going to try to run your behind down. Even though the top speed is pretty poor, you do have an amazing turning radius on this thing and a really good rudder shift, so definitely use that to your advantage if you plan on opening water with this thing at all, or being able to dodge torpedoes, because this thing can dodge torpedoes like a champ. For concealment, your best surface detection is 8.5 kilometers, which is amazing for a light cruiser. Absolutely amazing. For tier 8, an 8.5 concealment is truly marvelous. It's really good. And you also have a 4.5 kilometer smoke fire concealment, so definitely keep this in mind when using to smoke smoke to farm, pretty much. You have an amazing concealment, amazing smoke to fire. It has overall, it's a really good concealment for this ship. So definitely use this to your advantage when positioning your smokes to farm and to kite away and use your torpedoes. For the final 10 bit of the ship, for consumables, you have a normal cruiser DCP. You also get the German smokes, which are definitely much shorter lasting than normal smokes like the American or Japanese, but at least you do get smokes on this thing. Unfortunately, though, you do have a standard Hydra, which is 5 kilometer, and not the usual 6 kilometer German Hydra that you see at tier 8 for the Germans, which I found pretty weird. I found it kind of weird. It's like, why would it not have a German Hydro? I don't know. I didn't see any reason why it wouldn't. So it having a 5 kilometer Hydro is definitely a big deficit for the ship. I would have loved it to have a 6 kilometer German Hydro, but you can also pick DFAA over the Hydro. But since it's more of a smoke ship, please pick Hydro. There's no reason for you to pick DFAA. So pretty much the play style of the Wiesbaden is pretty simple. Pretty much, you're a tier 8 German smoke cruiser. You want to think of her more as a tier 8 Flint, a rapid firing cruiser that fires damage in the safety of smoke, or behind islands, either one or the other. You pretty much, your goal is to get close to the enemy, smoke up, and farm damage for about a minute before your smoke runs out. And then if the enemy rushes your smoke, you retreat behind the curtain while firing your torpedoes to slow them down. The smoke does have a very long cooldown, so you definitely need to make use of islands or ally smokes whenever possible. You definitely want to avoid open water gunboating, as even a light breeze will pin your armor, and the Wiesbaden will definitely not survive. Also, you want to make sure that someone is providing spotting for you. Otherwise, you pretty much just waste your precious smoke, unfortunately. Overall, I say that even though on paper the Wiesbaden sounds powerful, her extreme fragility and short effective range keeps her in check even after smoke. Solo players will definitely have to play extremely careful and cautious to survive long enough to employ their deadly firepower. Allied smokes will definitely change how you play this ship. If you have a smoke DD or cruiser that will smoke you up, this will definitely allow the Wiesbaden to unleash her true potential. If you if you have a div mate, a DD div mate that's giving you smokes, you can farm so much damage with this ship if you get yourself into good positioning. Also, make sure that you are making good use out of the torpedoes when you're kiting. So if you are on a flank where they're pushing you, you can use the smoke to farm, and then as you're cutting away, you're able to then use the torpedoes to try to get perma floods or just do a lot of raw damage with the torpedoes as well. So definitely make use of them as well, and your amazing 8.5 kilometer concealment. So pretty much on the design perspective of this from wargaming side, the Wiesbaden is more of the wargaming's take on the Germans' flak cruiser design proposal, but not much else is known aside from general designs and the fact that none were ever produced. All right, well, I hope you guys enjoyed the replay. Now, let's go over and start talking about the build of the Wiesbaden. The build that I have for the Wiesbaden is pretty simple. I have main armament for the first slot. The second slot is engine room protection, since, yeah, you'll get slapped around a lot in this ship. Aiming systems in slot 3 for better aiming. If you want to do smoke generation modification, you can, so you get extra time on your smoke. It's up to you. I do propulsion, since the turning radius and rotor shift is already really good on this ship, and of course I take concealment to get that 8.5 concealment on the ship. Now, I also highly recommend you take illusions. Lucius has the special ability here where if you hit over 140 shots onto any ships in the match, you get a boost of 7.5 percent to your reload. This will make it where you already have a reload of 6 seconds. It goes down to about 5.5, which is amazing to get that reload down on those 12 guns. Very important to have Lucians on this ship. So for the build that I currently have, it's mostly focused on the guns. You can switch the Demolition Expert to extra smoke screen if you want, or to priority target. It's up to you on that one. Pretty much the build order that I have for this ship is pretty simple. I do Last Stand first, then Demolition Expert, then I would do Survivability Expert. No, sorry. I would do Superintendent first. So Last Stand first, then Demolition Expert, then Superintendent, then I would do Concealment. After that, I would then do Survivability Expert for the extra health. Then I would do Adrenaline Rush, then Heavy HE and Sap, because again, these guns are 128s. Pretty much this doesn't affect the Concealment at all. So this is just a free 10% buff to your HE DPM, which is just perfect. So definitely take this one next. So pretty much Last Stand first, Demolition Expert next, then Superintendent. Concealment is for the 10 point. For the 13 point, you would do Survivability Expert. 16 point, you would then do Adrenaline Rush. 19 point, you would then do Heavy HE and Sap. After that, I would then do the Consumable Specialist to get your smoke back quicker, so that's 20 point. And of course, the final point is going to be Gun Feeder for 21 point here. But anyway, that is going to be it for this video. If you guys have any questions or concerns, let me know in the comments down below. But this is Overlord Bo. Thank y'all for watching, and I'll talk to y'all later.